welcome back to my channel. I am Heather Tiedemann. I am a realtor here in the beautiful Lexington, Columbia area of South Carolina. Today we are going to be going over the pros and cons into moving to the Columbia area. That includes like Lexington, Chapin, Irmo, other parts of Columbia, Blythewood, just that area in general. But before we get started, like always, I'm going to ask that if you like this video to please hit that like button, and if you like to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. I try to post every single week on Thursdays. So let's get going. So there are a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons to people that are considering their move to Lexington or Columbia area or South Carolina in general. It's really a big undertaking that you want to put a lot of thought and consideration into. One big thing is I'm going to highly encourage you to actually come visit the area. I feel like a lot of the complaints that I hear from people moving here could have easily been solved if they came to visit before moving here. Like one example is I've heard some people maybe are upset because the walkability of Lexington is nil to none. Like, I mean, really and truly, you're not really walking anywhere in Lexington. It's a very large place, very spread out. But if you were come to visit and you would have seen this beforehand, you would have known that this is not an area that you're going to be able to easily walk. Just some things to keep in mind. So continuing on from that, a lot of people move here. Biggest one, probably by far, is our weather. Pros of our weather, we do not really get a ton of snow. We maybe get snow, at least in the Midlands of South Carolina, maybe once every couple of years, and it's kind of like a light dusting, gone by the afternoon type of thing. We have beautiful springs, beautiful falls, mild winters, hot summers, which we'll talk about a little bit more, but for the most part, our climate is pretty mild and you can pretty much be active year-round here. Whether, you like outdoorsy activities, hiking, boating, what people do outside, I don't really know. I'm not super an outdoorsy person, but, that's by far the biggest one that people really enjoy, is that we have 4 actual seasons here. Spring, summer, fall, winter. If you watch other of my videos, there's actually like 6, but we won't go into that. That's kind of a joke. But definitely one of the things that people really enjoy here. Couple things that I do hear people are concerned about that I don't really think they need to be overly concerned about with moving here. So a lot of people are worried about hurricanes. Hurricanes more so affect the coast of South Carolina, and they don't overly affect the Midlands area of South Carolina. Can we get hurricanes? Absolutely. Can, they be pretty bad hurricanes? Absolutely. But those are pretty rare, and they don't really travel this far inland. As a matter of fact, a lot of the coast is actually evacuated to the Columbia, Lexington area. So if they're ever evacuated, they're coming here. If that kind of eases your concern about hurricanes in this area. Another one that I hear are tornadoes. Does South Carolina get tornadoes? Yes. Very few and far between. We don't really have them. I've lived here well over 3 decades and I've never personally seen a tornado. But I do know that tornadoes have happened locally. So they definitely happen here. I don't want you to say that I said that they don't, because they do. But there's not really something that I personally would be overly concerned about, because it's pretty rare that you're ever going to run into a hurricane yourself. Along with that, we'll move into the cons, which can also be the weather. Our summers are extremely, extremely humid, and we do not get the breeze of the coast because we're kind of right in the middle of the state. So we don't get, the cooler air from the mountains in the upstate. We don't get the breeze from the coast. So the air here can feel very heavy, which can make summer pretty unbearable to be out for long periods of time. A way to kind of offset that may be going to the lake, swimming in either your own pool or the neighborhood pool, or joining a swim club, pool club kind of thing. That really helps. Taking weekend trips to the beach. Those are all things to kind of get you through the summers here. Another great thing about South Carolina is we know it's hot. So you're probably not going anywhere in the state that is not air conditioned and very, very, very cold inside. So generally speaking, you can do a ton of indoor activities during the summer, or try to plan your outdoor activities in the early morning hours. That's when most people cut their grass, do yard work, garden, that kind of thing. They do it in their early morning hours. That way, when it's the hottest part of the day, they're not outside. Or if they are outside, they're doing something to stay cool, such as lakes and ponds and things like that. So, two things, pro and con, both the weather, just depending on what you're looking for. Going into the next one is going to be our cost of living. Our cost of living here is lower than most states. Specifically, what helps make that lower is one of our cost of housing, and two, we have some of the lowest property taxes in the nation in South Carolina, if it is your primary residence. So that's a key word that a lot of people don't recognize, that it needs to be your primary residence. And then also, if you are over the age of 65, you can also apply for the homestead exemption, which could lower your property taxes even more. Homestead exemption, I'm sure you heard it from other states. It is probably not the same as homestead exemption here. Homestead exemption, you have to be over 65, and then you're not taxed on the first $50,000 in value of your property. But we also have the legal residency tax rate, which is where you're going to see the biggest significant savings. Is if it is your primary residence in South Carolina, you follow the steps, you apply for it. Very, very easy process. You can do it online in most counties. Your property taxes are going to probably be at least half of what most states are. Sometimes even lower than that, especially if you're from like the Northeast or Texas or California. You're probably going to see a pretty substantial savings there. Also, our gas tax is fairly low, which keeps our gas prices much lower than most of the nation. So that it makes the cost of transportation a lot more costly. Not more costly, less costly. And it kind of goes back to where I was talking about walkability. And you're going to need that cost savings because we are not a walkable community for the most part. If you lived in downtown Columbia, you could probably walk most places. But in Lexington, Chapin, Irmo, those areas, you're probably going to want to have a car because we don't have a lot of public transportation options. That was not on my cons list, but I did kind of want to bring that up in here, is we don't have a lot of public transportation. So the cost of our gas being lower can be very beneficial to you. I also realize I ramble a lot and go off on tangents. I'm sorry about that. I'll try to stay on track. Along with our second con is going to be lower pay. Most people come here from high cost of living areas where they get paid a lot of money. You come here and our pay is significantly less. Sometimes it's as much as half of what you were making in another state. So you really need to weigh, is it worth it? Or is the cost that you're saving going to outweigh the pay cut that you're going to take with it? We have a lot of people that move here that are able to work remotely, that are still getting their pay from the Northeast, California, etc., etc. And it's very beneficial for them. But if you move here and you're not able to keep that pay, you really and truly need to think about, is it actually going to be a cost savings for me? Because in some cases, it may not be. Moving on to number 3 is our location. I personally absolutely love our location. We are a small city and kind of like a medium to large town. So we have a lot of amenities for not being a metropolitan area. A lot of people always talk about where you can go, like how we're centrally located, so we can go to the beaches, to the mountains, to Savannah, all these places that we can travel from here, which are great. I'll touch on those in a second. But we also have a lot to offer here in this area. We have Lake Murray, we have the State House, we have river walks and the zoo, an award-winning zoo. We have multiple museums, including a children's museum. We have trampoline parks, bowling, movies, lots of state parks, even a national park. So there's a ton of stuff to do here. You have to look for it. It's not like Google's your best friend. Like if you Google something, like if you're wanting to do something, Google it. You know, escape rooms, Lexington, South Carolina. We have escape rooms. I heard the other day that someone says we don't have any ice cream shops in Lexington. We have at least 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. 4 actually. So Google is your best friend. And if you don't want to Google it, or if Google's not giving you the right answer, post it in our Lexington newcomers group or our moving to Lexington group, and 100 people will let you know, hey, no, we do have this, or no, you may have to travel into Columbia for that kind of thing. So I love our location. There is always something going on. There's always something to do. I'm never bored here. And like I touched on before, we are 2 hours to the mountains and 2 hours to the beaches, as well as places like Savannah and Charlotte, Atlanta. We are close enough that you could easily travel to these on a simple day trip. So definitely something to keep in mind. I really and truly love our location here. A con is going to also be our location. A lot of people would like to have snow during the winter. Well, our location does not allow for that really. That would kind of be more the upstate. We are not a metropolitan area, so we may not have 15 parks within a mile radius of you. Like that is just not something that we have here. So while we have a ton of amenities, a lot of people come from these massive cities with millions of people or tourist towns, and then are disappointed that this small town of less than 100,000 people, or a couple 100,000 people depending on where you're at, doesn't have the same type of amenities that the town they moved from has. So definitely something to keep in mind, and then why I highly encourage you either in visiting or at least Googling. Like if something is extremely important to you, like I do not want to move somewhere unless they have XYZ, Google it, look it up to see if they, they have what you're wanting. So something to keep in mind. And then our last one I'm going to talk about for pros is the people. The people in South Carolina are absolutely wonderful. They're so sweet. They're so kind. They're so genuine. And that is one of the biggest things that people move here for, that when you're driving down the street, people are waving to you. They're stopping you in the grocery store and asking you how your day was, asking you about your parents, asking about your family, and they genuinely want to know about it. When you live in a community, you're creating friends with the people in that community. Kids are outside playing and enjoying their times together. Families are having outside barbecues. Like you're able to create a community here because most people here are very, very kind. Sorry about that. Like I told you in other videos, I do have 2 pugs and they like to fight each other. So as I was talking about the people in South Carolina, you can create friendships here, and your kids can grow up very happy with a lot of friends here just because everybody's so warm and welcoming. A con, which I think is going to be a con for pretty much everywhere, people on the internet. People on the internet, you're going to have a handful of people. And if you're in like the local groups, you'll see it's the same handful of people over and over and over again. They can be not so kind. Lexington is full. Quit moving to South Carolina. Yada, yada, yada. You'll see it all the time. It's not uncommon. It's something that I feel like no matter where you live in the country, you're going to see it. I wouldn't let people on the internet deter you, because people on the internet generally are going to be sweet as pie in person. Um, Kind of makes them two-faced. I can agree with that. I can agree with that. That is something that you may find. Southern people can be very, very sweet, but also kind of condescending. So something to keep in mind. So those are your pros and cons of moving to the area. If you have moved here or are considering a move here, what are your biggest pros and what are your biggest cons? Drop them in the comments below. I would love to hear about them. Also, if you are considering a move to Lexington or Chapin or Irmo, we do run multiple Facebook groups, including moving to Lexington, South Carolina, moving to Chapin, South Carolina, and moving to Irmo, South Carolina. So please feel free to join those groups. They are linked down in the description box below. And until next time, bye!